Okay, we can go ahead and get started. Want to do some introductions and some time constraints? Curry, you want to start?
Yeah, whoa, that's loud. I don't think we have any, maybe, I don't think we have any time constraints. I'm missing Jill, Anna, Iris, and Mario, who should be here.
But Jill, Anna, and Iris are not attending.
Correct. There are two of them are on the
Jill, Iris.
Maybe we can get this turned down.
Maybe. Over there.
Yep.
And this one, there's,
Actually, Amy.
Test.
mine's not bad, okay.
Test. I don't think this one's bad,
Which
is it?
one is that, Kerr? A or B?
B.
Calusa B.
Calusa A is okay, right?
Yeah.
Not too bad.
You said Mario.
Should be here later.
Okay. Ron, how about you?
We have, Mr. Burnside will not be with us tonight, Ms. Macchia will not be with us tonight, and unfortunately, Mr. Thompson was not able to attend today. So, and Mr. Dodig will no longer be part of the district bargaining team due to his new position.
Managing the wonderful decisions that we make with no return stability. That's a joke on a profession, not a person.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, I do have linked in here the agenda from June 6th, or June 10th, I'm sorry. Any questions or comments or change I need to make to that? Seeing no changes or requests, if I can get a thumbs up if you're okay with the minutes as they are. Perfect. I see, I already had it orange highlighted, I knew it was gonna go that way. Excellent. All right, last time, we do have our commitments. I would like to go over just briefly, a couple of, assuming good intentions. We did begin on a few minutes late, I apologize. We'll limit our sidebar, respect the process, maintain transparency, silence our cell phones, respect each other. We're gonna maintain on topic, take breaks when needed, and we're gonna talk about issues and not individuals. Shared interests. Oh, goodness. We have teacher retention and recruitment, employee morale, reduction of compression, student achievement, culture, equity, compliance, safety, implementation and manageability, fiscal responsibility, employee and student wellness and transparency. All right, so, did I clear all the notes from last time? We left off, we were talking about Article 10. Oh, you want to try that, Kerr?
That's where it has the speaker.
We should probably do it.
So this is my unique microphone's on the G side.
Oh, okay,
So it's not going to work.
okay. And have Ron use that one?
We'll just all share that with you.
Oh,
This might be the sharing.
It's a right now fix.
okay.
Oh, am I starting?
Do you want me to give, how about I give this up, because I don't speak that much.
Okay.
So let me give this up.
Okay. Right.
it's okay. Take out 2 tables.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's take some tables out.
Try to do that.
Is this a caucus?
Table caucus.
Yeah.
Seems like they've got.
Yeah, sure, I didn't move at all, did I?
Solutions oriented.
So they were.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Can we have the minutes reflect this?
Yes.
Things were collaboratively
Look at that.
rearranged, the seating arrangement.
We should have another video.
You have it up there, you just cut. Whoa.
Test.
It works.
Yes, it does, it works.
Okay, friends, we left off on June 10th, talking about Article 10. Compensation. We had a couple, proposals, options, that's what I'm looking for today. Who would like to start us off here? Hold on.
Let me start.
Sure.
Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
So just add to some of the story. We've been using the acronym TISA for quite a while. Would you believe that it's not called TISA anymore?
CO something.
It's the Classroom Teacher and Other Instructional Personnel Salary Increase Allocation.
Classroom, teacher, and other.
And other instructional personnel salary increase allocation. I asked some of my
Otherwise known as
colleagues why we
TISA.
still call it TISA, and they said because that doesn't make a good acronym. So, yeah. There you go. And I think because we still call it TISA, that's caused some confusion around some of the rules. So as we re-looked at kind of the current law, and Florida statute, what is it, 1012.01 is the statute that has the definition of instructional personnel. And I'm still gonna call it TSIA. But the rules this year restricted strictly to section A, classroom teachers. So, according to state statute, SLPs, speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists, who we've included in years past, we can no longer include, or we cannot include them this year. It's strictly classroom teachers as defined by statute with 10 or more years of public school experience in the state of Florida. This is all driven by Tallahassee. We can't negotiate who is eligible for this money. The pot of money is given to us. We can only divide it up. And I think the only other rule that I can think of off the top of my head is it's a cap of $3,000 per person.
And it's 10 years or more, right?
In a Florida public school. It doesn't have to be 10 years in this district, anywhere in a public school in Florida. So I think another thing that we've kind of talked about on this side is how to proceed. I guess we have two options. I guess we have three options. No, I mean kind of options on how to proceed. So we're under a 30-day clock, which started on July 1st. So under new Florida law, we have until the 30th, so what is that, another 2 weeks or so, to reach a deal on TSIA, to be TA, tentatively agreed to, or this expedited impasse procedure kicks into place, which no one's gone through it, and we really don't know how that works. So there's been some talk about what we call bifurcation, stripping out the TSIA piece and coming strictly to an agreement on that, and then deciding the total compensation piece at another time. So I've said a lot. I don't know if we want to decide how to move forward with that. Do we want to continue to negotiate the contract in full, or do we want to bifurcate and only discuss TSIA, come to some sort of agreement on that, and then discuss how to move forward? I'll close by saying if we do decide to bifurcate, we would have to come to an agreement by the 30th, and then when we come back in August, we will talk about ratification. And one of the kind of weird things with this is that everybody in the bargaining unit would have an opportunity to vote on it, even though not everyone in the bargaining unit is eligible for TSIA dollars. That would be a first for us here in Lee, but we would have to ratify whatever we come to an agreement. Have I left anything out?
If I could just add to what Dr. Fazone presented, we have done kind of some research. We think that there are now 2,116 eligible employees for TISA, according to the language in the law. Just to add, if we do decide today to bifurcate TISA and try to get to a tentative agreement on that, that does not restrict us, obviously, from continuing to bargain for the rest of the contract, which I believe, really, we only have the other issues around Article 10. Every other article and every piece of language, and even some of what is in Article 10 has been tentatively agreed upon.
Amy, just gonna take the reins here. I'll give you a second to. So I again want to point out that in this district, only 34% of the employee group is eligible for TISA. The other 65% are not TISA eligible employees, according to the data we have that we got from y'all. So I think it's really imperative that if we do decide to bifurcate, there's a strong communication plan around the idea that the other 65% of the employees will be addressed in a real manner. You know, because again, I think, you know, just not having an explanation out there, it looks like 25% or 35% are getting some money and 65% aren't getting anything. And so I think, you know, I think it's really important for us, both of us, to kind of start that idea that this is by law, this group of people, like Kerr said, we can't pick out who it is. We can't determine how much money is used. You know, there is a time clock on this, but everybody else will be handled. You know, I mean, I'd like to say, I mean, it's July 13th. I don't know how many more dates we're going to get before we go back to school in a couple of weeks. So probably the best thing to do at this point is to just defer to when we all get back into school, when everybody's back kind of in their routine. But I do also want to say that it's still kind of the expectation of us that there's more for the 65%. Again, the idea that this, under the previous plan, the idea that the 65% of the bargaining unit would only get $300 and 35% would get the, what we'll call the TSIA plus money, or whatever we want to call it, the dip money. I called it the governor's money one time and got in trouble. So the TSIA money, and then the fact that we've run the numbers, and if we apply the $300 to the non-TISA eligible employees, there are 1,100 members of the TALC bargaining unit that will make less. Current employees, 1,000. There are 1,000 current employees that will make less than a beginning teacher will make under the money and the plan as currently designed. 1,000. So that is, you know, we're talking about counting votes, right? Because ratifiability is something, right? So you would assume that the 35% TISA eligible are a yes on TISA. But then you start saying we got 1,000 people who won't make as much as new people. When we get to ratify the bigger deal, that's going to be a problem. And to think that I could work for this district for 2 or 3 years and not make as much as a brand new employee is, kindly put, not cool, and probably is not ratifiable. But so I think, you know, the amount of money that's out there outside of TISA, and hopefully this gives you guys some time to express this interest to the board, that it's not acceptable that 1,000 people make less than new employees that are current employees when we're talking about retention and morale as some of our top things.
And kind of follow up with what Kevin's saying. I mean, I understand the idea of bifurcation, and I understand that we're under strict deadlines, but I really do have a concern of us being able to ratify that. It's very hard when you only have 35% of people getting money, asking 65% of them to vote for it. It's really a big concern, to be honest with you, because I don't know how to explain to people, even just in my own building, you know, hey, you know, you might have something coming, but we're really not sure, but we want to make sure these 35% are taken care of. So how do we get that other 65% to move the needle to ratify?
That's fine. So you mentioned a population of 2,116 people. That's as we stand today. So I guess when will we kind of finalize that list? Because this money's for next school year. As we go into August and we hire and onboard new people, there is a chance that that list would go up because you hire people that have 10 years in a Florida public school. It could go down. So that kind of lends an argument to what TALC kind of proposed before, of splitting that money evenly. And if that's the scheme we could agree to, then if we set a date to, that's a structure we could agree to. I lost my train of thought. Then if we set a date certain to pull that list, it would be easy to do that calculation to move forward versus a dollar amount. The other question I have, just while I have the mic, kind of because of the restructuring, we know that there are some people splitting their position. I know of one person in particular that comes to mind that's a counselor half the day and a classroom teacher half the day. So I'm curious how that would be handled when it comes to TISA eligibility.
Can I just chime in on that before, because I think that, doesn't the language say full-time classroom teachers under A?
It does, and in our contract, full-time is defined as 20 hours. So I guess we need to know, is the person a 20-hour classroom teacher and a 18 or whatever counselor, or are they split 50-50?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We were discussing what full-time actually means, that according to your negotiated agreement. agreement, so I think that's probably the case, right?
And another question that seems obvious, but isn't. So as we talk about the expansion of the list, they need to have completed 10 years. So 10 years experience means completed 10 years, right? So we have a bunch of people who are in their 10th year. So people in year 9 this year will, no, right, no.
Would not be. People in year 9 coming up would not be.
Because if they completed year 9 this year, they would be going into year 10, not having completed year 10.
It's on our list if they had 9 under. If they had a 9 under year F, then they would be eligible because they would have completed year. Their 9 would move up to 10 starting next year. I guess is the way that I do the calculation. Is that your understanding as well?
I don't think so. I think the solution file that we did was people who have actually 10 years at the end of this year. So going into this year so they would be on year 11. I think the solution file that I shared with you reflects that, but Kirsten's not here, I can take a little closer look, but maybe if you know somebody, I don't know,
Maybe that's the discrepancy in our numbers now, is that because this is for next year, if this year was their 9th year, then, I'm sorry.
Right.
If their year F is 9 for FY '26, that means they are in their 10th year of teaching. So next year, their year F would be 10, which would make them eligible.
Okay.
So I think there's actually a few more people that
There may
are
be.
left off of your list then.
I mean, I think, when we're talking about new people, I mean, we have 48 vacancies right now. So, if we think about that, there are 48 vacancies and what that might look like as far as how many of those vacancies will be filled by teachers who have 10 or more years of Florida experience, probably is gonna be minimal. We don't know that for a fact, but probably is gonna be minimal. And I think we can probably, if we were to bifurcate, I think we need to do an MOU probably and a tentative agreement that basically says, this amount of money will be allocated according to, whatever we start on August, what is that, 4th? 3rd, 4th? It's like a couple weeks away.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Yeah, right. Wow, think about that. So that I think would have to be included in whatever language we have, is to figure out how we accommodate those folks. So it would then, whatever amount would apply to the eligible population on August 4th, like who is here and who has been hired for that. So we may be off by 15 people, you know what I mean? So there may be 2,131 people that would be eligible at that point. And we would have to just make sure we would agree to pay them that. So do we want to talk about TISA before we decide whether or not we want to bifurcate it? Or do we want to decide whether or not we bifurcate it and then move on from there?
I think when we left the last session, there was an ask to, for the board to put more money on the table for compensation to help deal with those that are not TISA eligible. Has there been a response to that?
We do not have a response to that. We did ask for that. We have not gotten a response back. So as it stands right now, the bargaining authority remains the same.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify that, so there's just been no response, there wasn't like a, they didn't come back and say no, correct?
Correct.
Just want to clarify, thank you. But then it also goes back to like,
It's just true.
I can't see giving 35% of people an equal amount of that 6 point whatever million of funds and giving 65% of people $300.
Is there a plan to re-ask of the board? I mean, are we just gonna say, hey, we asked and they haven't responded, so, you know, we're just gonna stay with that for 18 years, or is there a plan to say, hey, remember we asked you for this? Is there an answer?
I mean, after every bargaining session, I'm sure, you know, that is the request, because we haven't come to an agreement based on, you know, we're pretty far apart as far as the options that were presented by TALC and the bargaining authority. So if we want to continue to bargain, I feel like we're gonna have to get an answer, either yes or no, that they're willing to do that. But, you know, I made the request as was asked, and there has been no response in the affirmative to have another executive session to discuss what. So right now, I mean, and that's what we said, do we want to focus in on TSIA, which, you know, we know the amount, we know what we have to work for, but I understand Shay's point that might be a difficult story to tell to the folks on why that needs to be ratified. So again, I think maybe it's good to just talk about the whole process and what the law says, because I think, you know, probably want to, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, Kerr, so we have to have a tentative agreement by July 30th, 31st, whatever, 30th. And then the requirement also says that we have to have money distributed by October 1st. So if we did have a tentative agreement and on August 4th or 5th, there's a ratification vote and it doesn't pass, then that triggers immediately. Either we come back to the table again for that, or that immediately triggers, I would imagine it triggers impasse, the expedited impasse process right then and there, because we did not meet the requirement of the agreement.
And I was looking at our calendar, I mean, people have to give a notice of the vote, have that cooling off period to look at it.
Right.
I don't think we could have a ratification until the end of August.
So that long, okay.
TALC doesn't even have reps in place yet.
Right.
So we would have to have our rep elections during preschool week, get packets made, get them to people, have the election at every site. It would probably be the end of August before we would have that vote, and then it could go to the September board meeting, I suppose.
And we could, in the September board meeting, usually the beginning of the month, we could actually have distribution by October being paid.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're doing everybody on the October 1 pay, right? Hopefully, we come back in August and the board has answered in the affirmative the request for more money, and we bargain essentially the same thing for everybody else, and everybody gets paid 10-1. My problem is gonna be if the board continues not to provide an answer, and they're not pressed to provide an answer, and then we get to a point where, you know, some people are getting money on October 1st and everybody else is still hanging out there. I mean, I really think the board needs to be put on notice that we need an answer one way or another. I mean, forcing an answer may get a bad answer, but give me an answer. Let me know how you feel. Because again, it would be my hope we start August and we hit the ground running and we have everything wrapped up. Then we do the end of August ratification. We might be able to do it for both things, for an August and then a September ratification and get everybody paid out. But again, I'm not sure why the idea the board is not allowed to answer is acceptable. It's certainly not acceptable to me. If you don't have any more money, tell me, I'll tell my people, it's fine. Doesn't bother me, just tell me. Maybe they're waiting till after the primary. who knows, for a reelection. So maybe they'll give me an answer the day after the primary. But, you know, a no answer, a non-answer is not acceptable.
I'm not sure how the October 1st deadline plays into all of this, because, say that we send it out to ratification in August. If it passes, great, you move on. But if it doesn't, then we have to find a magistrate, get them the issues, have the hearing. Then there's a period to accept or reject the special magistrate's recommendation. They have to give you the recommendation, which takes time. Then there's a board hearing. That could go past 10.
Oh, no, I don't think there's any question.
Okay,
If it does go to, yeah, it's not gonna be October 1.
Okay.
If that's the case. And then you gotta go explain why you gotta go to the shame on you.
Yeah, we don't have to go. But,
I'll go.
yeah.
I'll go, not a problem.
Then I mean, as we stand here with no additional bargaining authority, I think we should set TISA aside and try to come to some sort of agreement on that, and just bifurcate bifurcate that from the rest of the CBA or the rest of negotiations, and see if we can move forward on that.
I mean, I agree. I don't know that we have a choice otherwise, really, according to the legislation. We had to make an attempt to take a look at the distribution of TISA and gotta see where.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but these are the constraints that have unfortunately been placed upon us by those with the power to do so. So where do you want to go from here? Because you have a TALC proposal, and then we had yours from the tenant.
So I do want to address, again, from the district standpoint and looking at and getting feedback from the last bargaining session. I do think, there's a couple things I'd like to kind of throw out there. And again, I don't have an option for this yet, because I don't even know if it's a path that we want to explore. So this is kind of uncharted territory, because it's new legislation and everybody's trying to figure out what the intent behind the legislation was and what does it actually mean. We know that there's a cap. We don't know that there's a floor to the. So is there an opportunity for us to have a discussion about possibly saying, okay, we know that there's a cap, there's not a floor. If we meet the language that says there has to be a salary increase for all of the eligible employees, and then it says that you can, then once you do that, you can take the remaining amount and address anybody else who was not included in that. So what is your actual take on, maybe even from an FEA standpoint, what that actually means? Because I think that would, if we say, okay, no, you can say, let's say, I'm just gonna say, for example, let's say we give the 2,116 employees $1,000 increase. That's just saying for hypothetically. So, that leaves us, I don't know the math, but millions of dollars then to say, okay, we've met the requirement for teacher salary increase for the eligible population. Let's look at then extending the remaining dollars to the rest of the instructional staff.
Our read of the new law and guidance has been, until you've essentially maxed out everyone in the eligible population, you cannot disseminate those dollars to people that are not deemed TSIA eligible. So in this case, we would have to give, to use your numbers, 2,116 people $3,000 each.
Right.
And then if there's money left over, that money could be disseminated in a different way to.
Do you, and I know just based on what maybe some other districts are doing, there's been discussions about tiering the amount. So, you know, part of the issue is, okay, so we presented last time around like, hey, here's what our eligible teacher salary, or teachers, where their current salaries are. We showed a scatter plot that basically showed kind of the discrepancies at every year. Is it amenable to have a discussion over if you're below that, where that target, or maybe even the average, if you're below, we could say target or average, depending on how we want to approach it, that you get a differentiated amount as opposed to the teachers above. We don't have a cap, and do I still have that? Do we still have the scatter plot available there? Can we just call that up so I can kind of clarify what I'm getting at?
Share. I was just gonna say, Amy, isn't there a link to it in last agenda?
Yeah, you can show the one. It just put it. Yeah, it gives me an idea of what I'm talking about. It's just a more or less a visual than the actual. Unless you want me to share.
Ron, is it okay if I speak before you bring it up? Because I know exactly what you're talking about. We had a lot of great talks about your chart even after the bargaining session. We did, because whereas you talked about people below and people above and those types of things, we did bring up about the fact that someone who started in Lee County year 1, and now let's say it was in year 15, may have worked very hard for highly effective back when highly effective actually meant something and there was a substantial dollar amount put to it.
Right.
In addition to people that actually completed the career ladder in their first 10 years and people that didn't. I think it's very unfair, and I think we have a general consensus on that, to say, okay, well, you're below the line, we're gonna bring you to the line, but you're above the line, so you're not gonna get as much, but you did way more work in those 15 years than maybe that other 15-year teacher.
Yeah, I heard that last time, and that's why we kind of said, you know, the original proposal was that if you're above the line, you get $1, basically, and we're gonna try to bring everybody else. So we've kind of backed off that based on that conversation. I think there were some other variables that we maybe didn't consider at that point. I mean, one of the things that we kind of went back through history, and, you know, and I understand, like, people did a lot of work, and maybe it was career ladder, but highly effective at some point. I think years ago it was as much as like $1,000 as opposed to 300, which
Up to 50.
same amount of work, right? I mean, you're still highly effective, but your highly effective is only worth 300, whereas before it was worth 1,000, which has kind of created that discrepancy
There were
too.
some years that was 1,500.
Yeah, so I think that's, you know, that's kind of like, you can make a case to say, well, you know, I'm still doing the work to be highly effective, but now I only get 300, right? I only got 300 for the last 4 years, whereas if I would have been in the district the whole time, I would be up there. So understood. So I say that to say this. I think, you know, take that into consideration. So if we say like, okay, maybe if you're way below the line, maybe those are the folks that get the 3,000. If you're closer to the line, you get 2,000. But if you're above the line, you still deserve to get, so you get 1,000, which is kind of steps away from the whole idea of you get nothing. Like, I think there's merit to say, you know, that's, and I actually kind of looked at that and worked on it, which I'll show you what it looks like in a minute, just to take a gander at. But just the concept of, like, so one of the things we talked about too was, like, those, if you're, many districts have a cap. So if you're at 80,000, which seems to be kind of like the median of what the caps are in some of the Big Ten districts. So, and if you look at that, I mean, we do have some that are above that. Does it, make that much sense, you know, to equally distribute that, or maybe if you're above 80, you still get 1,000, you're still gonna see an increase in your salary, but, you know, the discrepancy, you know, even at year, I mean, look at year, what is that, 12, so, I mean, we had the range is like from 58,000 to 120,000. Like, to me, that makes me think we ought to do something really for those folks, maybe a little bit. We're not saying they don't get an increase. Obviously, the cost of living is going up and we want to allocate some of that to that. But, I mean, you know, it doesn't address compressions totally, but like we took some steps towards that last year, and I think we can take more steps towards that this year if we are all amenable to have that conversation.
So, the person that you're saying is at like 100 and something,
Yeah,
is that person a JRTC person?
yeah.
That.
Well, they still be eligible for, I guess my point is, that person still would be, under this plan, would still be eligible for an additional $3,000. Like, we have to take that into consideration.
But in a way we don't, because some of it's based on their military. I think, I mean, even putting JRTC into that is. Yeah, I mean, excuse the data here, but, so going back to what you're saying. If I'm a 15-year teacher, Heather's a 15-year teacher, Amy's a 15-year teacher.
Right.
And she gets 1,000, she gets 2,000, I get 3,000.
Yeah.
We're not gonna ratify. A 15-year teacher should get what every 15-year teacher gets. And I understand compression, and we've worked years to do
But that's
this.
what we're trying to do, is to say the 15-year teachers should make something similar at that 15 years. That's the whole idea behind addressing the compression.
But not necessarily,
Why?
because, okay, when I started working for the district, I made $34,000.
Right.
Okay? Every year that I've worked, I've received some kind of raise. Every year I've worked, I've deserved that raise.
Right.
Okay? Now, some years I might have got more than another teacher because of something that I did, or maybe there could be tons of reasons. Okay? Maybe Heather didn't do that. She didn't, she said. So why, if we're both 15 years, why should she maybe get 3,000, but I only get 1,000?
Well, I think it's a product of the previous systems that were in place. I don't think it's necessarily whether or not you deserve to make what you make, but doesn't it seem, I don't know, feasible or at least reasonable to think that 15-year teachers maybe should have a range, but it's a pretty wide range there. I mean, it's a difference sometimes of $15,000 in salary differences. And again, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000 doesn't necessarily completely address the problem, but it helps, it moves people towards, and we're talking about the TISA money here, we're not talking
Right,
about.
but I think the only way to deal with the piece of money is to take it and divide it evenly amongst the people that are eligible for it. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm just trying to figure out, if you've been in the district for 25 years, then most of the people you work with that you know that have been in 25 years, how do we have such a wide range of numbers in that 25 years? I mean, is it because there's longevity in that and some of those, no? So what makes that such a difference?
Well, anybody who's been here a while can chime in on this, but from the research that we've done is somebody, you know, maybe in the district now that has 25 years of experience, but brought in some teaching experience with them. And so there has been differences in the contracts of what you were allowed to bring in at those times. So maybe it was at one point, I think it was 3 years, then it went to 5 years, then it went to 10 years, now it's 20, whatever it is. So those discrepancies, and we didn't necessarily, I hate to use the term, but grandfather people in to say, you know what I mean? Like, if you were, you know, if now we're at 10 and you only got to bring in 3, then really we should move you up 7. You know what I mean? But it was all based on the time you started work. That to me is what the major issue is there. There has been the differences in performance, which, you know, that has created some of this issue too, is, you know, like Shay said, one year we did $1,500 for highly effective. Now we do 300, you know what I mean? So,
Right, but that wouldn't really be creating an issue, it would be something that just normally happened. Right, like in any job you had in any other field, some people might make a little bit more one year than somebody else because their evaluation was better.
and that's the whole performance-based system is that's why it's there, which is different than step salary systems where you just get an increase based on your years. You
So,
get-
but it sounds to me like what you're trying to do is make it so it's more of a step system and everybody kind of has the same salary? Am I wrong?
Well, many districts, in looking at some of their salary structures, have kind of a combination of steps and performance pay. Like if you look at Collier's, within each step, there's performance based within those steps. So there might be a $300 difference at the step, but it's not 7,000. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference of what you can make that year, but it's built into those years. But there's different, I forget what they call them, quadrants or units or whatever they're at. That's that. But it's created, you know, it's created more equity within the salary structure, which I think is one of the things that we wanted to take a look at. I mean, we took some steps last year, I thought, in a good direction, where we said, okay, you know, everybody gets 3%, but then if you know, where the compression issues were, I think it was 11 to 15, you know, you get an additional 5%, so on and so forth, because we looked at the data to see that. I guess it's a very similar concept.
So I guess it's a question, but I think it's more thoughts. When we talk about kind of fixing this compression, I don't think we can do it with TSIA dollars alone. $6 million is not going to go very far. And I don't see how we can fix compression with TSIA.
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
But consider this, are we creating more of a problem if we don't use the TSIA in the right? So we're creating more of a problem if everybody gets, you know, the $3,000. We haven't done one thing to address any of the compression if we do it equitably.
Do you have an option to show us to tier it other than?
Okay.
So the scatter plot.
Yep.
I mean, we had 163 people on that list getting $1.
Yeah.
You had almost 1,200 people getting $3,000.
Yep.
When I modeled that out, I didn't see like a big change to the compression. And to be very frank, it's July 13th. We're under a 30-day clock, and it seems rather late in the game to be getting this, to coming up with a new structure here. Unless you, if you've got something, I don't see it.
I mean, I hear you. I think there are districts that just started parking, you know what I mean, trying to figure out that. So I guess that's just kind of where we're at. But would I share that with you to the, you want to put in the agenda? Sure. Or I can share it if you want to keep writing. That. So this again was a kind of a starting point, and I just used these numbers, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000 to start the conversation. And obviously then the total amount comes to up below the 6.2 by about 160 or 170,000. So obviously then we would, just make those numbers equate to the total amount of the TSA. So we have the majority of those, again, where the targets should be at that, not the average salaries, that plot shows that red line is the average salaries at that level. We think that, it should be higher than that. Obviously, that's what we're trying to get to. So the target rate would be based on, what we've done with the starting salary, with a minimum and a maximum, and then the 20 years in between that would be where you start. So the whole concept is the target rate would be the starting salary at 54.5 and then a cap at 80,000. And so every year within that would be based on 20 years worth of service.
20 or 25?
Was it 25? I think maybe I said.
Can you put a slideshow? Yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing.
The what?
Can you click slideshow?
Boom.
So that's before, where's my eyes went to the dollar amount on the side. With benefits, that has to be well over 7 million. Where would the extra?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, that would be the total, that should say after 22% benefits. So the amount would be 2460, whatever that 22% is, I'm sorry, it should be, say, after. So, yeah, the salary increase per se would be 88% of that.
So that people above 80,000
78%.
benefits would get $880?
Yes,
So,
78%.
oh, 70,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. My other thought comes to this makes an effort for the small fraction of the bargaining unit that is eligible for TSIA. What would the plan be then to help? And I know we're talking about bifurcating. Doesn't that just does it create a bigger problem for those that are not TSIA eligible?
I mean, yeah, I think that's one of the things that if we're heading down this direction, we should stay the path, the course. Can't speak.
So do you know the amount of money it would take to apply this same logic to non-TISA eligible employees?
It's gonna be an additional 12 million, I think is what we determined would be, so it would equate to
How
about
much,
18.
how much outside of TISA is on the table currently?
Outside of TISA?
Yeah.
3 point whatever.
So we're $9 million short in
Of-
bringing 65% of the people to this status.
And that's, again, but depending on what you're taking into account the conversation over special instructional, I mean, all of those things. would
I'm
be-
just trying to,
Yeah,
so
this is right
to
now.
fix TISA eligible employees,
Right.
so that, let's say, this is ideal, and we want everybody here.
Well, I mean, that
Whether
was
you're
your
TISA
option.
Whether you're TISA eligible or not,
Right.
this is, no, the target rate was not my option.
No, but the amount was close. I mean, your amount was to make everybody whole was 18 million. If you recall, the option was that, and then there were.
So what's the plan to sell it to 65% of the bargaining unit who are $12 million short of making them whole of 35% of their peers? Because if we take this target, right, if we say the target rate status, right, and we apply this logic where 1,950 people are below target rate status and give them the $3,000 to that population outside of TISA, we can't do that. Because there's only $3 million left.
Right.
So how is that gonna fix any problem other than only merging the TISA people closer to the line? The non-TISA people are gonna get further spread out because you don't have the money to match.
I don't have the money today to match.
But you're also, but the district, let's not say you, the district is also allowing the board to not give an answer. Which basically means there's not money there, right? So again, you know, I just, and again, is this based on everybody's as a 196? Because some
These are
people in the district work more than 196.
These would be the 196 full-time classroom teacher eligible. So that would be based on that salary.
But you could be TISA eligible and not be 196, correct?
You mean if you're 20 hours a week? Or
No, if you're a 208, a 206, 20 whatever, a 216, a 226, a 255, right? So is a 250, is a 226 TISA eligible employee's salary in this equation as a 196 or a 226?
I believe they're all 196 based on their salaries of where they would be on their daily rate at 196.
Okay.
Because you could do it that, it's annual.
I mean, again, I just don't see, unless we make a commitment to making everybody whole, all this is gonna do is really make the non-TISA people mad. Because again, with the current money on the table, non-TISA people are only getting $300. And 1,000 current employees will make less than brand new employees. So I mean, it's bad enough that we have to do this. But the idea that we don't sit here and say, well, you know, we can't allow the board not to answer until maybe August 10th or whatever the day after the primary is, and I'm gonna keep coming back to that because it's a key component of our thing. Listen, give somebody else a chance. Maybe they'll answer your email. I don't know. So I mean, again, and again, it's real late in the game to be concocting new strategies, but I think Kern may have something to say, and we may have to caucus, because, all right, I think we need to caucus on this. I mean, unless you want to put, I mean, our option is equally divisible amongst TISA eligible employees.
Yeah, that's what you presented
Right.
the first time.
Right. So,
And that's basically where I got the 18 million. So if you're in your option to make everybody whole, according to that, give or take whatever within that 18 million, that's about the estimate of what I would think.
How much do you think these numbers would have to change if you include the folks who currently have a year F value of 9?
I could probably, if we caucus, I might be able to get that.
Is this data the same data that we were looking at from May
Yes.
12th?
Yeah, it's the same, the one I shared it with you again, I think last week.
Is that the same, the one that we did our option off of was May 12th?
Yeah, no, I think the one I shared with you last week
Yeah.
is the one that was.
If looking at the one from May 12th, there were,
Yeah, but isn't that the one that included paras?
no,
Oh,
no, I took them all out.
okay.
The one that, the data that we looked at on May 12th had 184 individuals with year F value of 9.
Okay.
So that, I believe they should count. Just trying to think about how that might skew this. All right, yeah, I guess we need to caucus for a little bit.
Okay.
All right, Kurt, you all call the caucus first, you have a caucus report for me?
Yeah, I've got some notes on my phone. So we reviewed the district's proposal, reviewed our previous proposals. We can look back at some point-old contracts to kind of see what the existing salary schedules look like. And we reviewed our shared interests, focusing specifically in our conversation around employee morale, retaining our experienced educators, and producing, ultimately, and I think most importantly, producing a document, an agreement that employees will ratify. We appreciate the district's focus on addressing salary compression, but we have to fix compression without causing depression. And we still remain open to discussing a bifurcated approach if it allows us to comply with these state requirements. But it's only really possible if there's meaningful dollars set aside, from the board to address these existing salary concerns of those who would not benefit from the TISA funding, or whatever the new laws call it. And we remain committed to finding a solution that values everybody, and resulting in an agreement that could eventually and ultimately be ratified.
Turn this off while we were away.
No, I have one. Oh. So, we had a very similar conversation, within our group about, what really the intent and where we're headed moving forward. I think, again, there is apprehension to just say, let's take TISA and establish kind of the precedent today that we're gonna equally distribute the limited funds that we have. This is a good example of, we have limited funds, so strategically, how do we come up with a solution that addresses some of the problems that we have within our current system? You may not want to hear this, but I think that, we still or have only talked about TISA really since we know the amount and where we're at, only on a couple occasions, and we have a little bit of time before we have to make a decision. I would like to take a deeper dive into exactly, who is where. The other piece of, is it 9 years or 10 years? I'd like to get, somebody that knows a little bit more about what the intent of the language is to tell us what that is, so that we can kind of include that or exclude that from the final solution. So, at this point, we're just not willing to say, to agree to, just the equal distribution of the TSIA money, but we were formally asking for at least another session with a little bit of time for us to really get some of those questions answered.
You have a date in mind?
Monday?
Refer to my team.
You have a question there?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Since we're coming back before school starts, do you think it would be possible to meet with the board and see if they could come up with some more money?
I will take that request and see if that's a possibility.
Thinking same time, 4 o'clock.
Whatever works for you guys best.
Yeah. I think TALC has existing,
I'm assuming that the rooms will be available at this time. I could do the pit. And have fun at the pit.
That's got a good vibe for the pit.
We'll make it work. I think we can make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right,
So next meeting?
Monday the 20th,
9:20, that works.
at 4 o'clock.
All right.
Okay, thank you.